So, wrestling, was that always something you watched as a kid, or was that just something you fell into a little later on?
No, actually, I was in beauty school when I was 18 because my parents said, like, oh, you can either go to like a trade school and like pick a job that you want to do, or if you go to a 4-year college and you like talk yourself out of everything and you flunk everything, you have to pay us back every dime. So I was like, okay, well, let me go to cosmetology school, let me get a trade so that I don't have to pay these people back for, talking my way through every single class. And so in cosmetology school, I actually met a girl who was a big time wrestling fan, and she invited me one night to go to a live WWF show, and I was hooked from that night on.
Wow. What was it about wrestling when you first saw it? You were like, man, this is so cool.
So being from a small town, I knew that I wanted to like be in the public eye somehow. Um, where I'm from, there's not like a ton of modeling. Acting didn't call to me so much. Like I liked improv theater, so I liked like working like on the fly. And I was a softball player and a cheerleader, a good ball player too. So when I went to that first like live WWF show, and I remember I saw Ivory. She was like, the first like diva that I saw like in real life, and we were sitting close to. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful and so strong. And she sort of has like all of like the attributes that like I wanted to have as a woman. At this time, I think I'm a 17 or 18-year-old kid. And so then after I left that show, I went home and started researching wrestling schools.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, it's like wrestling, I feel like has something for everyone, and you have to find what's like unique to you as to why you want to be in the business. So you get to look at the different schools. Eventually, you get training. Uh, Talk to me about like the training process because you mentioned you were an athlete playing softball, doing cheerleading, but then you get into wrestling. It's a whole nother world onto itself because there's a lot of physicality involved.
Yeah, and I actually trained for an entire year while I was in cosmetology school before I was allowed to have a match at all. So I just told this story a few days ago. I was working at a Supercuts and I was working front desk, and I had been researching wrestling schools, but I hadn't like chosen one yet. I also didn't have $3,000 to like spend on like wrestling school. So lo and behold, I always feel like I'm like God's favorite, and like God always sends like his messengers and his signs to me. So I started to recognize like some of the local wrestlers. So I'm working front desk at Supercuts, and one of the local wrestlers who I had never met before, never seen before, but recognized him when he walked in, came in to get his hair cut. And I was like, oh my God, I know you. I was like, you're a pro wrestler. And he was like so impressed that I knew who he was. It was Rob the Bull McBride. And at that point, he actually invited me to Ken Spence's school, which was in a barn in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It was freaking freezing when I started training. And then so I started training there. I learned how to like body slam on like 300-pound Rob McBride. And I trained there for a little bit. And then I eventually switched to CWF Mid Atlantic, which was in Burlington, and where I sort of got aligned with Amber O'Neill and fell in with that crowd.
So you guys met right then and there at the training school. What was it like getting to work with her and when you meet all these people, you develop these friendships and camaraderie, and that's something that I've talked about with many people on the show. It's one of the cool things about the wrestling business is that you're with these people, you get to know them, and all of a sudden, these friendships start clicking, and you're around them almost 300 days a year. Talk to me about your first meeting with Amber.
So I didn't meet Amber at CWF Mid Atlantic. I actually met her at a PGWA all women's wrestling show in Winston-Salem, which the Ken Spence crew had invited me to go to because Ken was friends with Randy from PGWA, all girls show that they thought that I should attend so that I could meet some people. That was where I met Amber. I still remember when Amber came out. She was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in her, metallic teal top and her like black leather pants, looking like Britney Spears. So that was actually where I met her for the first time. We immediately became like soulmates, soul friends, sisterhood forever. And this was 20 something years ago now. And then I think that she likely invited me to CWF and that's how I got involved with that crew. But I met her in Winston-Salem at an all-girls show.
You had mentioned earlier about when you and Amber first met. Talk to me about forming Team Blondage and you guys being able to be quite the attraction on the independent scene.
Yeah, at Team Bondage was Amber's vision, and I was so young and sort of hadn't been out in the world that it was completely her vision, sort of her costume ideas, sort of her look. She set up the photographer for us, Ray, who we worked for like a bazillion years. um that was her vision, and I just happened to be the one to come along that got to, and I was the perfect fit that got to live that with her. And then we were lucky enough a few years ago for WoW to reform Team Bondage out in LA and do a season of WoW superheroes that aired on, I think it aired on CW. And it was like, it was the most fun. I love, like, so I'm a singles wrestler, that's fine. I love working with other people. It's my favorite thing. I love a tag team match. I love to manage or valet. I love co-creating and being like with my community and my friends. So as much fun as I have like doing singles matches and things, I think that pushes me out of like sort of like my comfort zone and like, Kristen, take up space and shine on your own. I love working with other people. It is so fun. Amber and I had the time of our lives. I mean, we would tear up the roads every weekend for years until I got signed. And then she went off and did a bunch of great stuff, after I got signed. So yeah, it's the time of your life to travel with your best friend and get to do all these shows. It was so fun.
Any fun stories you want to share about time on the road?
Yeah, I'll tell you a ghost story.
Okay. Okay.
So we were So I'm a big like supernatural, like spiritual person. Amber has never been a supernatural person. I am. I like grew up in a haunted house. Like, so I have sort of had like supernatural things happening to me my whole life. And so it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're driving to one of Pops's shows, like WXW when it was in PA.
Hmm.
So we're like driving through the Poconos. It's 3 o'clock in the morning because I think we had done a double shot in like West Virginia. So we were driving up from West Virginia to WXW the next day. And I had a brand new like Chevy Cavalier. So it was a new car. And so no problems, no issues. And all of a sudden we're driving through the Poconos and the locks start going. I take my hands off the wheel because Amber's looking at me like, what is happening? And I'm like, I'm not touching anything. And we're like watching the locks go like back and forth. And I was like, what the hell? And she just blurts out, she goes, girl, there's a ghost in this car. And we died. So then we like come up on like a gas station. We stopped. I turned the car off. So obviously it stopped once I turned the car off. And we run into the gas station and we're like, yo, like to the gas station attendant, we're like, yo, like this crazy thing just happened. And we told him what I just told you. And he said, yeah, you're like on sacred land. He was like, he's like, there's Indian burial grounds everywhere. And we were like, no shit. So that was a fun. And we talk about that still to this day. Like remember when the ghost jumped in the car in the Poconos? There were so many, but that was one of the best ones.
Only in Pennsylvania, right?
Right?
Yeah, that's so funny.